Andy Gotts is here. Now, let me tell you about Andy Gotts. He's got this fantastic book out, which is called, well, it's called Degrees, isn't it, Andy?
It is.
Yeah, and really what it is a coffee table style book with so many wonderful photographs of your favourite stars. For over 15 years, celebrity photographer Andy Gotts has been snapping many of the world's A-list actors. He's most noted for his black and white portraits of the Hollywood glitterati. Several years ago, Andy wrote to 300 actors asking if they'd agree to have their photographs taken for a new book. And what did they say, Andy?
Nothing. I had no answer back. Nothing happened at all. 6 months lapsed. And then all of a sudden, a phone call from Joss Ackland. And he said to me, Andy, I've got your letter here. I will do this photo shoot only if you come to Clavelli and photograph my son's wedding. So I had to go down to Clavelli, photograph his son's wedding.
Yeah.
Then the day after, he sat down with me and he said, how's the project going? I said, well, it's not. You're the only person to sit for this.
Excuse me, now you say you wrote 300 letters
Yeah.
and only one person replied?
One person.
And that was Joss Ackland?
Yeah, he's the only person.
Then how did he kind of fix it for you then?
Over breakfast next morning, I was saying it isn't working, no one's talking to me about anything, and he said, why should they? There is no point to this project, you need a theme, why people want to be part of this. And I said, well, like what? And he said, why don't you do Who Knows Who? And it could be a chain reaction like the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, a celebrity chain reaction, and I'll give you Greta Scacchi to kick you off.
Oh,
right.
Wonderful.
So he put you in touch with Greta Scacchi, or Scacchi, as I say, and then she said, well, look, I know...
Alan Cumming.
Okay, and then Alan Cumming says, I know...
Saffron Burrows.
And then Saffron Burrows says, I know...
Malcolm McDowell.
Do you know the whole, link off by heart, do you? That's
Absolutely.
fantastic.
And then you managed to put together this book despite having no letters back from any of these folk. Now, why would they want to be photographed by you? What makes you so special?
My charm, my debonair, my...
Yeah.
I think it's the way I work. It's the way I work. I've no assistants, no hair, no makeup. It's myself and the person in the room I'm photographing. They love the fact there's no entourage. They can be themselves. They can relax. If you look at glossy magazines, most of these shots, they look very staged, very plasticky, whereas my ones are more laid back.
They're arty, aren't they? They're black and white, and I think probably Tim might be the person to describe the style.
Well, I was just thinking they kind of are laid back, but they retain a certain intensity as well. And a lot of them remind me of that fantastic picture of Samuel Beckett, you know, the one with all the lines on his face,
Absolutely.
where they're just faces, they jump off the page.
I think that's a fair description. There's some people that are no longer with us. Over what period of time were all of these photographs taken, Andy?
It was over 9 years. It was a long slog. At the beginning, I was getting one, maybe 2 people a month.
Yeah.
Then I shot Ken Branagh, and he looked at my portfolio. But by then I had a good bulk of English people, like John Hurt and Jeremy Irons and Michael Gambon. And he said, why no Yanks? And I said, well, no one's given me a Yankee to photograph. He said, I know Kevin Kline.
Do you use those very same words?
Very same words. He said, I know Kevin Kline really, really well. And he said, I'll phone him up and try and set something up for you. And he did. And so I went up to New York and shot Kevin Kline.
Wow.
How many in here totally?
There's about 120 actors. There's a couple of shots of each actor.
I think, honestly and truly, you've really captured the essence of many of these stars. Whether they're acting or not, I think you have captured their personalities that we somehow know. And how long does that take? I mean, if you take a picture of somebody, let's say like Helena Bonham Carter, who's kind of classy and a little bit kind of eccentric, how do you know when you've got that in a photograph? How do you know?
Before I do a shoot, I have a rough idea what I want. I know roughly the lighting, roughly if I want to have a cheerful one, a funny one, a bit quirky one. I spend about, if I'm allowed to, 20 minutes before I'm talking with them, getting to know them, getting to know the characteristics. But people like Helena, who I shot her in her house, she had like a jester's hat on a rack in the corner, and of course that was encompassed in the picture. And the same thing with George Clooney. The only room with a white wall was his bedroom. So he went to his bedroom, and on his bed was his pirate's hat, which is really bizarre. But apparently the night before he had this massive dinner party with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Michael Douglas, and it was a hat party.
Oh, I see.
And his hat was a pirate's hat. And so when I explained what a fool he looked at his pirate's hat, he started laughing hysterically.
Yeah, he loves it.
And that was a shot I had.
How do you approach somebody like Paul Newman, who's an absolute legend?
I was after Paul for years. He is my acting hero. And I wrote him 9 letters. Each one was a no. A very polite no. And it got to the deadline by the publisher saying, you've got 4 more months to finish off. So I had to call in Susan Sarandon as a favour and say...
What a name dropper you are. I love it. Keep it going.
She said,
up. Yeah, she faxed his office. I was actually in New York photographing her at the time. I got back to England. I was sitting at home going through my contact sheets, and an email came in from Paul Newman's office saying, I'd love to be shot. So the next week I had to go back to New York. This is why it's cost me so much money to this project.
And did you take his wife at the same time?
I did. Joanne is fantastic.
She's still gorgeous as well, isn't she?
Absolutely.
What about the self-awareness? Because you're dealing a lot with actors who are very self-aware and very aware of how they can project whatever they want to project. How do you get them over that?
All actors hate being photographed.
Do they?
They do, but they love acting because they're a character.
They're somebody else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you're photographing them as themselves, they more or less hate it.
Who was the most fun?
I've shot Kate Winslet a few times, and Kate Winslet is hilarious. She's very, very funny. But also Brad Pitt, down-to-earth, lovely guy.
Really?
I mean, for example, I shot him when he was over in England doing Troy, and I was told by the production team I can have 12 minutes of his time. Not 10, not 15, I can have 12 minutes. But the thing is, we got on so well, an hour and a half later...
Oh, brilliant.
We were still talking. The shoot hadn't started yet. Done the shoot, and he said, no, what can I do to help the project? I said, I need a big name for the connection. He said, who do you want? I said, anyone.
Yeah.
He got out his mobile phone, made a phone call, had a bit of a chat, gave the phone to me, said, Andy, it's for you. It was George Clooney.
That's so cool. I think that we've learnt something here. The way to movie stars is to say, well, such and such has done it.
We should also say you're raising money with this book, aren't you, for a worthwhile cause?
Way back when I first started this, there's a programme on TV about diabetes.
Yeah.
And at the very end of the programme, there's a graph, how much money is given to cancer, to AIDS, to diabetes. There was nothing given to diabetes. So it's back then I thought, if I can just raise money doing something I love, I will do. So all the money from the book, my profits from Seller Prints, etc., is given to diabetic research.
Oh, well, that's brilliant, Andy. That's Andy Gotts, by the way. And if you want to log on to the Steve Wright pages right now on the Radio 2 website, you can see some of Andy Gotts' finest work. That's bbc.co.uk/Radio 2 to see Andy's photos of George Clooney, Kevin Spacey, Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman right now. And Andy's book, Degrees, published in hardback by Dewey Lewis Media, is now in the shops. Have a great weekend. Really nice to see you. When you do another one, do come in and see us again. Andy Gotts, everybody. Thank you, Andy. And thank you very much for the photograph you brought in for us from a well-known movie star who is...
Kirk Douglas.
I've got to get it over there.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
it's wonderful.